What did Elon Musk just say?
You said you were up till 4 in the morning?
Yeah, so, actually a little more like 5 in the morning. But
okay.
We got the XAI data center, or supercomputer center, training from beginning installation to start of training in 19 days, which is the fastest that anyone has ever gotten a supercomputer to train.
And is that in that new building off the side?
That's in Memphis, actually.
It's in Memphis?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where you were?
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no.
That's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay, so I want to talk to you about alignment.
I wish that was funny.
Yeah, right.
And that's where our new God is coming from. No.
The layout of Washington, D.C. is literally Egyptian magic. Obviously, in Egyptian mythology, Plutarch, he talks about the Osiris story, how Set, he chopped up Osiris into 13 pieces, and Set had 72 conspirators that helped him do that. And Osiris is then later chopped into 13 pieces. Isis finds 12. The 13th she can't find is his phallus, and then she makes, a magic phallus to impregnate herself, and from that she gives birth to Horus, and the magic phallus becomes the obelisk, and that goes into some deep occult imagery. So the obelisk is facing the Capitol building, and the Capitol building represents the dome of Isis, and the dome of Isis is the pregnant belly of Isis, which she's pregnant with Horus, and the obelisk is obviously the magical phallus, the erect phallus of Osiris. And in front of the obelisk, the Washington Monument, you have a reflecting pool, and in Egyptian magic, essentially, the obelisk in the reflecting pool draws upon the energy of the sun god Ra, and it's this whole ritual. There's the layout.
Bit of an unusual situation. Now, this first portion of the radar cycle, fairly bland and typical, but then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow, believe it or not. Military aircraft flying through the region, dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic, or even metallicized paper products, but it's used as an anti-radar issue, and obviously they're up there practicing. Now, they won't confirm that, but I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I'll tell you right now, that's what it is. 50 and...
Damn.
I would be shocked if this video doesn't get removed from this platform, so you should watch this now and download it while you still can, because I kid you not, this sounds like a horror movie.
Implant aborted baby parts into lab animals. Have you heard of that sort of research?
Yeah, we did an analysis a few years ago showing that over 90% of experiments with using human fetal tissue and putting them involved animals were funded by Fauci's NIAID.
Do you know where they're getting the aborted human fetal tissue?
A lot of it is happening at colleges and universities that have affiliated hospitals that perform that procedure.
Madam Chair, I think we need to look into that as well.
So guys, this video is for entertainment purposes only, right? But I want to make clear, she is basically saying they are using the parts from new souls. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying here. She's saying they're using them and combining them with other animals. Now look, I don't care what side you're on. If you don't even think this should be investigated, even if this is just a rumor, if you don't think that rumor should be investigated, what is wrong with you? I'll take this with a grain of salt because this is just some random person on X, but still, they say they are playing God. Humanity is not prepared for the level at which this is being done to come out. This is me interjecting here. I have been saying this exact thing that they're saying. I'm going to say 99.9% 98% of people are not prepared for all of the things that are being hidden from us right now. And that is exactly why they're being hidden, because we would freak out. Those USOs under the sea are related to this. Anyway, they continue to say, my family knows someone ex-military who had to end a creature that was created in a lab and merged with AI. Nope. If this is true, this is a true horror story. But we are not in control. Humanity is not in control of the gov around the world. And I need you guys to remember this when we see things like USA. This is not humanity making these decisions. This is humanity following orders. And who are they following orders from? They are following orders from the most ancient quote-unquote gods, the Anunnaki, the alien race. This alien race is who the free people who build things follow. That is their quote-unquote God. All of those people have sold their soul to those beings, and they at least believe that they have no shot at going to heaven. We are talking about the very successful ones, not the average person who thinks they do good things. And these people were traumatized into this from birth. You need to wake up so the world can heal, because we need you. You are not too stupid to understand what's going on. You are incredibly smart, and they fear you. They fear your soul. They fear your ability to love. They fear your kindness, and they fear your strength. They fear your fierceness, and they fear your abilities. Do not let them manipulate you any longer.
About it, okay? First, the stock market would go. Then, the economy, boom! The dollar, boom! And then pandemonium in the streets. War, genocide, boom, boom, boom!
Bullshit. Nobody could keep that big a secret, Charlie. Somebody blow the whistle.
And every once in a while, some poor little sucker tries. Well, like these guys. Boom! Boom! Every one of these guys, dead, dead, dead!
Whoa. That's Professor Myers.
He ran the Atlantis shuttle program. Why, did you know him?
Yeah, he helped me out with research on my book.
Oh, well, that must have been before his accident.
Myers is dead.
Oh, yeah, 2 months ago. He was one of my most avid listeners, and he had it all figured out. Everything the government was doing, where and why. He even sent me a map.
A map for what, Charlie? What's the map for?
How the fuck did a vintage Marvel cartoon put the entire medical industry to shame? We're gonna realize we owe Luigi Mangina a huge apology.
Health insurance is an agreement between you and the insurance company that you will pay them a certain amount of money each month, which is known as the premium. And in exchange, they will help cover the cost of your future medical bills.
So we have to pay for this health insurance?
I thought you said it was a perk. The perk is that you get to pay for it.
Oh, I understand. We pay the money to the insurance company, and then we get to see the doctor for free.
Not quite. You still have to pay a deductible. A deductible is simply the amount of money you have to pay out of pocket for healthcare services before your insurance plan starts to pay.
Hey, This free perk is starting to sound real expensive.
You made the health insurance sound like the blessing.
Feels more like a curse.
Wasn't Donna White saying the same exact thing a couple months ago and nobody wanted to listen?
I will never go to a doctor ever again about my general health. They have no clue what they're talking about, and all they want to do is put you on pills. I had the best doctors that you could get from the best hospitals that you could go to. None of them could stop snoring. None of them could get my blood pressure under control. None of them could get my cholesterol, good and bad, leveled out. It's all good now.
Now this is where things start to get really interesting. He said he had problems with mouth breathing and snoring, and it was all due to a blocked nasal passage that led him to have a massive gut and a whole load of other health issues. Now what's interesting about that is there was a product on Shark Tank that would have helped Dana with all those issues. But of course, the episode was taken down because they wouldn't have been able to profit off of his pain and suffering. Here's that clip.
Tropical Rush is our best seller. There's a base of menthol and peppermint in all of them.
Woo! Woo!
There you go.
Yes. That's really good.
It's really quite a hit. It enhances your breathing for sure. It does open you up.
So they were hitting this thing called the Boom Boom Stick. I really don't understand why people reach for that old Vicks stuff that has a ton of chemicals and ingredients you could probably hardly pronounce. Now this stuff only has 2 ingredients, menthol and this very specific blend of essential oils. The menthol is going to help open up your nasal passages, and the essential oils basically keep them open for longer. All you got to do is just unscrew the top, inhale through each nostril. You can literally feel this shit hit your brain. And I'm someone who wakes up every morning with one nostril completely clogged. But now as soon as I wake up, I just hit this in each nostril and it's completely gone. And the best part is it actually lasts. That's insane. Really, the only issue I have with this stuff is since they went viral on TikTok, they're always sold out. Last time, it literally took 2 months before the restock. Whenever they do a restock, you should see an orange cart somewhere down there. If it's orange, they're still available. If it's not, then they're sold out again. I'd definitely go run and grab these as fast as you can.
They are trapping your soul in the earth. It's a soul system, not a solar system. We start in the stars and we descend through the 7 planets, which give you the 7 chakras, the 7 colors, 7 days of creation, the 7 days of the week, Saturday for Saturn, Monday for the moon, Sunday for the sun, and the 7 metals. This is where we come from, unconditioned consciousness. Our consciousness falls and conditions into these states to be created in this world. Each one of us is a star. Hue, man, light manifested in physical form. That's why we say sister, mister, monster, stir is star. And when you're famous, you're a star. Ancient paintings of Jesus show a star being descended down. Now you know the real reason why Paramount show the stars descending down, going to the mountain. Freemasons show the path back to the stars. Each one of us is God experiencing himself in a divided state. But the archons in this world brainwash your mind to trap your soul in here. When you learn the language of symbolism, your life will completely change and you can see through everything.
Music artists you should stop listening to, part 6. Jay-Z, ladies and gentlemen. And this is about to get super real. So I advise you to save this right now, just in case it gets banned. Let's just start off with Jay-Z's Lucifer 9 interlude.
Murder, murder, Jesus.
When you reverse that, it says murder, murder, Jesus 666. Now we get more of an idea on why he said Jesus can't save you. Life starts when the church ends on his song Empire State of Mind with Alicia Keys. Jay-Z also said in his song Family Feud, I told my wife the spiritual stuff really work. So if Jay-Z's talking about spiritual things and he's saying that Jesus can't save you, what spiritual stuff is he talking about? Well, he seems to be pretty fond of Marina Abramovic, and we know that she's pretty popular for spirit cooking. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Your mind is going to be blown. You could just tell by different pictures what kind of stuff she's on. So you ask yourself, why is Jay-Z with her and why does he look so happy? Or we can go to the fact that Jay-Z's always throwing up this sign and people just follow him doing it, not even realizing what they're doing. Here you see him throwing up the sign with the eye in it. What's similar to that? Oh, Freemason sign. A Freemason sign with the all-seeing eye in the middle. Now what's similar to that? The actual Freemason sign. Now what's similar to that? The satanic sign. And what does the satanic sign say? The satanic sign says, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Now you can kind of understand why the whole world can be going wicked, but they can be saying they're doing it out of love. They'll be saying love is love. Anyways, it says, do what thou wilt. Where does that come from? Have you heard of Aleister Crowley, ladies and gentlemen? Do what thou wilt. Oh, you think I'm just reaching. You think Jay-Z's not a part of this in some kind of way. Well, you please tell me what is on Jay-Z's sweater right here. Do what thou wilt. You know who also throws up the rock sign? Anton LaVey. Who is Anton LaVey, you might ask? Anton LaVey is the starter of the Satanic Church. And here you have him throwing up the exact same sign Jay-Z throws up. Here you have him doing it again. So it's no accident. You know who else was throwing that up? Hitler, my friends. Hitler was throwing that same exact sign up. Am I still reaching or are you starting to grab onto this? I told y'all we going deep. Now keep up. Here goes Jay-Z in a Mason lounge. And here goes a sign for the Order of the Eastern Star, which is Masonic. Now, what's similar to this sign? The satanic sign. Once again, the satanic symbol is very similar. I'm not one to believe in coincidences, people. Don't be blind to what's right in front of your face. Now, check this out. The Baphomet and what's on top of his head. Do what thou wilt. Now, I showed y'all him giving the all-seeing eye already. This is one of his clothing lines, and when you go up top, what do you see? The all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye is also on our money. These are elites. Artists to stop listening to, part 3. An all-time favorite, ladies and gentlemen, Beyonce herself. Many don't know what this young lady's into, but I can tell you it is not Yahweh. Y'all think Beyonce be out here just doing things that is artistic, not even realizing she's summoning spirits. Summoning spirits she believed to be her ancestors, but in all actuality, it is all demonic. There's one right here named Oshun. And we know that Beyonce had a certain stage where things just happened to change. Well, it was her Oshun stage. She was in water in that Lemonade video. Then she opened this door and the water came out. It was like giving birth. It was a ritual. Being born again. We know that darkness imitates God. So she thinks Oshun is one of her ancestors. Oh, y'all think I'm playing. Well, these are the lyrics to Beyonce's song Black Parade. I'm going back where my roots ain't watered down. Ancestors put me on game. Ankh charm on gold chains with my Oshun energy. Look down here. Motherland, motherland, drip on me. Yeah, I can't forget my history is her story. Who's motherland?
Exhale, doubt, negative. Father, Mother, God, we thank you for everyone's.
Father, Mother, God. Motherland and Mother God must be somewhere connected. Beyonce also has a poem on her Lemonade album. And right here, you'll see it says, and plug my menses with pages from the holy book. Meaning she's talking about using the Bible as a tampon. For all y'all saying y'all walking with the Lord, I hope you hearing this right now. She has a song called Church Girls, where she talks about church girls acting loose. Putting mixture in the church. If you are somebody in the church and you're not strong in your faith and you like Beyonce and you see things like this, you're going to think it's okay. She's leading many astray. That's why people like me speak up. That's why people like me bring you truth. And now that you hear this truth, you put yourself in judgment. Beyonce has a whole church in Northern California that worships her, called Beyonce Mass. And she has yet to come out and rebuke these people. Look at their shirts. Won't she do it? We know the saying, won't he do it, talking about God. Now they have on shirts that says, won't she do it, talking about Beyonce. Beyonce married a man that said in his song, Empire State of Mind, Jesus can't save you, life starts when the church ends. He also said in his song, Family Feud, I told my wife the spiritual stuff really work. So what spiritual stuff is he talking about? He's talking about summoning ancestors. That's the same man doing weird stuff like this with Marina Abramovic, making it seem like she's floating in front of him. Guys, this woman is putting hidden messages in her videos and in her songs. And if you listen to them, you are opening portals and you are inviting those spirits that are on her in you.
Why is it Freemasons always place the East at the top of their artwork? I'm going to decode the symbolism for you. At the bottom of the painting, we have checkerboard floors. This is the base. This is the beginning. Black is material. White is spiritual. The physical world is made by spirit and matter combined. This represents the beginning of the Mason's journey when he lives in illusion and identifies himself with the physical body. Now, this is why you see the checkered floor in music all the time, because they're using music to produce illusions. This is a blueprint to produce a temple, and these are the tools to create the temple. Not a physical temple, a temple within our own mind. These tools represent the tools to reconstruct our inner world, to change our belief system, limiting beliefs and mental blockages. We must build a temple in the three aspects of our consciousness: thought, emotion, action. Once we have reconstructed and built a temple of moral law and integrity and changed our belief systems within our own mind and consciousness, we can then start the journey to enlightenment. This ladder is the ladder of climbing to higher consciousness, going from the illusion of the material world up to enlightenment and understanding higher levels of reality. And no, I'm not a Freemason, I've just studied their symbols. When you can read symbolism, it will change your life. If you enjoy my content, make sure to check out my YouTube, or don't, it's completely up to you.
Wait, and now we find out Joe Rogan is the reason TikTok is getting banned?
I read TikTok's terms of service. Oh my God. I'm going to read you this because this is so crazy.
Is it good or bad?
Bad. It said, we collect certain information about the device you use to access the platform, such as your IP address, device IDs, app and file names and types. We may also associate you with information collected from devices other than those you use to log into the platform. That's why.
Do you think they did that? They created TikTok just on purpose to have all that?
100%.
Oh, but this next guy, check Joe Rogan and shut all of that down.
How long before TikTok's banned?
Let me tell you what's going on with the TikTok. TikTok was eating Silicon Valley's lunch. They were taking all the ad money from Instagram, from Twitter, from Google. I'd say Google and Instagram and Facebook, just knocking it out of the park. Look at who is saying, oh, it's China and they're tracking everything. And dude, Facebook tracks you, Google tracks you, everyone fucking tracks you all over the place. But all of a sudden TikTok is a problem. So they decided to lobby politics and come up with this scam.
But Joe Rogan didn't stop there. He had to ruin something else.
Some stuff that I have no affiliation with. NeuroGum is one of them. We always keep NeuroGum in the studio.
Yeah.
We go through 4 or 5 boxes of that stuff.
And NeuroGum really works?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh wow.
It's got theanine in it and caffeine and a couple other things. And what it does is it enhances your memory.
Yeah, now everybody's using it. Gamers, content creators, people who work 9 to 5s. Thanks, Joe Rogan. Now, hold on. The first time you try this, it's gonna feel like something unlocks up here, and I can't explain it, but it's a good feeling. That caffeine and L-theanine mix you get from NeuroGum had me super productive. I thought it was something else. Thanks to Joe, you might not be able to get this, but if you want to try your luck, hit that orange shopping cart below and see if you can grab some before it's all gone.
The Twin Towers are an 11. Flight 11 was hijacked. New York is the 11th state. There were 11 crew members on the flight. 9/11 adds up to an 11. New York in gematria adds up to 111. Freemasonic pillars are an 11. With the black and white checkered board, black and white add up to 11. 11, 11. Black is matter, white is spirit. Was this just a Masonic ritual? I'm not making any claims, but I'm just pointing things out.
I've been talking a lot about how useless search engines are becoming. Google started to suck for me like over 10 years ago. Look at the example, say like the moon landing. The moon landing was not created for an audience that had computers that were infinitely more powerful than anything anybody had even heard of in 1969. They weren't expecting people to sit around with Photoshop and all these imaging analysis programs, going frame by frame, doing parallax analysis and all these kind of things, zooming in on these photographs. They weren't expecting that. No matter what people might say, where it's like, oh, the technology's always 50 years ahead. No, it isn't.
Open your eyes.
These two-tailed shows up all around the world too. The two-tailed mermaid, Muezzin, all around the world you find this. I knew it was a conspiracy. Right? Matsai in India, same thing. The first incarnation of Vishnu shows up as a fish god that teaches the arts of civilization. Pretty specific. Documented all throughout history, revered. It seems like just a total freak show that you have these, this is what all these cultures are saying. And I'm not, I think this is an interesting story here. I'm just stepping back and displaying what has been said over and over again. The Chinese people still celebrate this culture hero as the bringer of this incredible knowledge, and we know how sophisticated the Chinese civilization is. Then you go over to Africa, and Olokun is an amphibious, androgynous god that teaches the arts of civilization. These two-tailed...
Nobody realizes that these 5 famous women are experiencing the same terrible plight as Blake Lively. The counterattack of the last one is really satisfying. Number 1, Salma Hayek. When shooting Frida, she was asked by the producer Harvey Weinstein to take a bath together and have a special massage. After Hayek refused, the enraged Weinstein threatened to end her life. Hayek was also forced to shoot nude scenes, and as a result, she suffered from mental illness. Number 2, Gal Gadot. When shooting Justice League, she was harassed by the director Joss Whedon, locked in a room, and forced to shoot some inappropriate scenes and lines. Number 3, Lily Reinhart. She was once harassed by an industry senior, forced to have an intimate relationship, and was even taken to his home by the man. Due to the power and influence of the other party, she dared not speak out for a long time. Number 4, Olivia Munn. She was tricked by the director Brett Ratner into a trailer, and before she could react, the director had already done the indescribable thing. Number 5, Natalie Wood. She was hurt by a director at the age of 16 and suffered from severe depression. Later, she achieved self-redemption through Rebel Without a Cause and publicly accused the director. Unlike Blake, they don't have husbands like Ryan Reynolds to give full support. The road of accusation is long, but they still bravely stood up.
Did you guys know that every single president in U.S. history is related to one king?
What?
What are you talking about?
This is where it gets crazy. This man, Harold Brooks Baker, he did all this study on U.S. presidents and royal lineage. He had this theory that the presidents weren't voted in by the people, but they were actually selected based on royal bloodline. So, 13 or so years ago, this 12-year-old girl, for her 7th grade project, with the help of her grandparents, went down the lineage of each president, and they all connected to one man.
Weird.
All their lineage traced back to King John from the House of Plantagenet.
How is that possible?
And there's a folklore around the House of Plantagenet that they were actually descendants from a demon.
Oh, what? That's horrible.
But that's where this dude's theory came in. He's like, it's not about who the people vote for. It's within the candidates that are running for president, who has the more direct bloodline to King John.
Oh, you want to be an astronaut? Well, that's great. You can be an astronaut. All you have to do is study flying or science, and maybe someday you could be the first astronaut to walk on the moon.
No! There already was an astronaut who first walked on the moon.
Well, no, not really. That wasn't real. See, there was this thing called the Cold War, and in order to beat the Russians, we kind of faked that. That never happened. See how there's no windows on the side? And see underneath where there's like a pod thing? What's that, right? Take a look at this wreckage. See how there's no plane parts on the ground there? What does that look like?
A missile.
You see, President Bush was in a secret society at Yale called the Skull and Bones. His dad was too, and they all worship Satan.
President Bush worshipped Satan?
In my personal opinion, absolutely. And one of the Skull and Bones initiation rituals is that to get in, you have to lie naked in a coffin and masturbate in front of the older members. But the really messed up thing is that since former President Bush, Bush Sr., was also a member, he requested to be there to watch his son's initiation. So he watched his own son masturbate. President Bush masturbated in front of his dad. Yeah, it's pretty gross.
I'm going to say something going to knock your socks off. I am a man that's very close to the Lord Jesus Christ. I've had God tell me some things. We've disclosed secrets with each other.
Repent, and thou shalt be saved.
Friends have frank and open conversations with each other. I've done that with the Lord. I've had the Lord say, I've had God come tell me, he said, this is what I'm going to do. I've had the Lord say, what do you think about this? God has asked me for my opinion.
What are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
I said, well, Lord, since you asked, maybe I'm doing it. He said, no, we can talk frankly. What do you think? I said, well, I don't think you ought to do that. He said, why you don't think I ought to do that? I said, well, you know, and I know you know people more than I do, but you know, Lord, if you just let me do a little bit more work on this individual, I think we can get him to. He says, okay, go ahead.
Hey! Don't you ever say that again.
I mean, you want to know what God looks like. Hold your hand up. Come on. Look.
Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect.
See, I found out what God was able to do, and I found out what I'm able to do. Have you ever saw me sad, sick, depressed, discouraged, despondent?
Now I feel better.
You don't have enough time for me to tell you who I am. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was out form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of the Lord God moved upon the waters, and God said, let's make Jesse.
That's it, I'm not going.
I know I'm not a traditional pastor teaching scripture by scripture. What I would teach would just be more how to live a great life.
You serious?
I'm not a scholar on it all, but I try to stick with the things I do believe. It's hard because I don't understand it all.
But you're preaching it, and so if I'm questioning it, shouldn't you have answers for me?
Well, I think I can have answers on the things I understand.
My old friend, dear Lenny Bruce, told me once, any religious leader who has more than one suit while someone has no clothes is a cop-out.
Yeah, you know, Larry, I just don't see it that way.
Obviously. But how do you answer it?
First off, I'll say this. I believe we are blessed to be a blessing. I think as a representative of Christ, I'm supposed to excel.
Get rich like a normal person.
Not necessarily be rich, but look good and think right and be a leader in what I do.
What, are you looking for a raise? Get out.
God started a whole covenant with Abraham, and it says he was the richest man in the East. And I think, well, God, why didn't you choose the poorest man? But he didn't.
You've been accused of getting the gospel wrong. You didn't go to seminary. How do you respond?
Again, I don't think much about it. I just believe that it was God's plan for my life for me to be doing what I'm doing. I don't come at it from a theological point of view, and I think that's part of my success. And that, you know, sometimes you can know things that would taint how I would minister. And so I believe it was God's plan for me to not go to seminary.
Get out! That is the dumbest idea you've ever had, and you have had some doozy.
We gave name to the unknown forces behind all wonder and by telling each other stories.
Let me show you. We told tales of specific, powerful, relatable gods ever present in all cultures, in all mythologies, from the Greeks to the Romans to the Norse, and so on and so on. The familiar descendant of Zeus, Poseidon.
The question remains, what is their purpose? What do we require of them now?
There is mythos and there is science.
Mythology is what we knew back then. Science is what we know so far. Sooner or later, our creation stories are replaced by the narratives of science. Painstaking science. And all gods and monsters outlive their original purpose and are reduced to metaphor.
She just fell. Are you okay?
Operation what?
Operation
you started
Northwoods.
this.
Okay, so the U.S. government was involved in several crazy conspiracies during the 50s and 60s. Operation Northwoods is probably the craziest of all. 62, the CIA planned to stage terrorist attacks on American citizens and military targets in Miami and Washington and blame it on the Cuban government. Convinced the American public to wage war on Cuba.
Yeah.
Plan involved killing innocent people and soldiers, blowing up U.S. ships and Cuban refugee boats, hijacking airplanes, and planting phony evidence to implicate the Cuban government. Operation Northwoods was authorized by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and presented to the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, before President John F. Kennedy rejected it.
Dude, I've never heard about this.
Listen.
This is crazy.
But we think about it in the context of being in 2024, how crazy is it to stage terrorist attack, call that a false flag now, right?
Just say
on
it.
American citizens.
Just say it. Say the
military
words.
targets.
There's two numbers involved in it. Just say it.
9/11.
Yeah. This is like the most depressing list ever, honestly.
The kids are loving this.
Yeah.
Hey kids, have you heard of 9/11? Guess who did it?
Operation what?
Even Satanism for a while.
Yes.
Why the fascination with that?
Because it was there. Which sounds very much like, why do you climb Everest? And they say, because it's there, you know. I got involved with a group of my friends, and it was just really in those days, when I'm talking about late 60s, it was an excuse to get some more chicks, to do some more drugs.
They were fascinated by it.
And, hey, man, you had a covenant. Hey, let's go and we'll party. Instead of saying party, hey, we're having a meeting tonight, you know, ba-dum. That's what it was about. It wasn't really into the circumstances of what today's Satanism means. And there are 3 steps. When the second step came, and I realized that was a commitment, and what the commitment meant, I said, nay, because the fun and games was over with, and it was going into another sphere.
I have great respect for things that I don't know about.
And that's why. I want to talk about women. I want to go right down.
The Vector, NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's Public Affairs Office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s, the time the logo was created. Not exactly the case. Someone might want to ask the Russian Federals, and while you're at it, you can go ask the Chinese, who formed their space agency in 1996, why in the world they're using a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s as their official logo. Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts, getting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts actually flew into space because number 7 never did. Deke Slayton had a heart problem, so he didn't get to go up. So there were only 6 Mercury astronauts, yet there's a 7 in every single logo. That's in the official mission or official program insignia for Mercury, as well as the 6 individual mission patches carry this logo. And it carries on to the space shuttle program. The Apollo logo. The Apollo logo has a big letter A in it. At least that's what they want you to believe, but it's not. Again, that's just a simple way of explaining away the inclusion of this vector symbology in the logo. If you go to the space shuttle program, the original Space Shuttle STS program patch is a triangular patch that, again, hides the use of the chevronic vector symbology. Every single one of the International Space Station expedition patches carry the vector symbology. The Russian Mir Space Station used the vector symbology. That was their official logo. You can even go deeper and look at military-industrial complex companies. Look at the logo on a company like Lockheed Martin, 2 vectors. The X-Prize logo, Ames Research Labs, the U.S. Space Command. When you get into the military realm, their official logo is the vector symbol. And when you look at the military's individual space-specific programs, all of them deal with vector symbology in their official insignias. And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to? And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world.
Fusion in the sun, that's well understood. It's only in the flares that you get fusion. There's no fusion in the sun. They don't know how the sun works. It's a transformer. Transforms from some other dimension. It's not burning anything. It doesn't have to. It's a converter. I don't know. Nobody knows. But that's what it does. That's the only thing it can do, because that's how everything works. It's taking energy from another dimension, counter space. There's no energy, actually. You can't see the sun in free space.
So the sun is not visible in outer space?
Not in free space. Well, when gross matter becomes involved, like the Earth's atmosphere and envelope and the surface of the moon, otherwise there is no light. You can see the moon, you can see the Earth, but you can't see the sun or you can't see the stars. You can see material objects, but you cannot see the sources of light. There is no light until there's a material object. It doesn't take light years. There are no light years because there's no light. So that means that the light you see from the distant stars isn't 4 million years old. It could be instantaneous. All the theories collapse when you can't see the stars in outer space.
What's going on, guys? So it's November 11th, 11/11. Interesting, right? It's also interesting it's the day we celebrate Veterans Day. And do you know why we celebrate Veterans Day on 11/11? Well, because they signed the armistice to end World War I on 11/11 at 11 a.m. Wow, that's probably just a coincidence, huh? Actually, we know it's probably not a coincidence. What's also interesting is in Arizona, there's this cool Veterans Day memorial that has this sun feature, and it only works on 11/11 at 11 a.m. It's 3 more 11s. That's kind of weird. It's almost like these people are into esoteric numerology. I think that they might be. What do you guys think? I think we should stay curious and ask questions.
Future. Legend goes that Trump traveled back in time to become the ruler of America. These theories arise after someone discovered 2 books on the Office of Congress Library website. The books are called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900, or The Last President. Both were written in the 1890s by Ingersoll Lockwood. The book Baron Trump is about a young boy who finds a secret portal and time travels. Both books have eerie connections to Donald Trump and his family. First off, the book is called Baron Trump, and Baron Trump is the name of Donald Trump's son. Coincidence? I think not. But it doesn't stop there. At one point in the book, he was guided by a man named Don, aka Donald as in Donald Trump. And then in the book The Last President, it's about an unlikely presidential candidate that won the election. Sound familiar? Even freakier, the book talks about the Fifth Avenue Hotel. The address of the hotel in the book is the exact address where Trump's tower currently stands. It gets creepier. In the book, there is a character named Laugh Pence, who is the Secretary of Agriculture. Come on, like, hello, the Vice President is Mike Pence. There's just too many similarities between the books and Donald Trump's life, so people believe that this book was actually written about Trump and his family.
Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? Can you?
You guys hear about this DC crash?
DC crash? What are you talking about?
This is what's driving me nuts because I know nothing.
Okay.
But apparently, not only in the DC area, but they said 4 states around Washington, DC, multiple people reported from 12 o'clock at night to 3 in the morning, October 12th, I believe, that they saw this giant thing they said was 10 times bigger than like the biggest airplane you've ever seen, on fire, just coming in.
What?
And there's this giant sonic boom, like, and people were like, what did we just see? Nothing has come out.
I haven't heard anything about this.
That same night, this one guy was walking about and there was just dozens of police cars, Secret Service, just lining roads, blocking roads off.
Yeah.
Nothing was said.
Some Miami aliens all over again.
Yeah.
ABC News has obtained a videotape that shows clearly what happened when the president fell ill. Here's White House correspondent Ann Compton.
Here's something odd I came across. This is President Bush Sr., not to be confused with his son, a later president. And in 1992, he vomited on the Japanese prime minister and then fainted. Now, the odd things. Firstly, I don't remember this happening at all. But now there's all these clips on YouTube I'm just seeing. Secondly, watch his wife. That's Barbara Bush, who some say is Aleister Crowley's daughter. Some say is a man. As soon as she sees he's gonna vomit, she darts over to cover his mouth and nose. Possibly the worst thing you could do, right? Was she trying to hide something being seen from camera? And thirdly, look at this news clip. They are about to report that the president died the same day, then suddenly backtrack.
This just into CNN headline news, and we repeat, or we say right off the bat, we have not confirmed this through any other source. Stop. We are now getting a correction. We will not give you that story. It was regarding some rather tragic news involving President Bush, but...
This is an actual scene from a Japanese state dinner in 1992. George Bush suddenly vomited and fainted when he saw the sashimi in front of him. It scared the staff, and the reason why he reacted so dramatically. People are speculating that the reason, it was because when he was a young pilot, he fought against the Japanese. He was almost eaten alive by the Japanese. Back in September of 1944, George Bush Sr. was flying a bomber on a mission to Father Island. It was an important Japanese military stronghold in the Pacific. By the end of the war, it had become an important target for the U.S. Army, but unfortunately, the fighter fighter plane he was flying was hit by the Japanese. There were 3 men in the plane. Bush was the only one who managed to parachute out. When he landed on the surface of the sea, George Bush opened the rescue valve as soon as possible, but the cunning Japanese army discovered Bush's parachute jump, so they searched for him. At that time, the Japanese ships in charge of the search were already approaching Bush. Faced with this situation, Bush was in a state of panic. The Japanese were known for their cruelty. When they attacked Australia, they beheaded Officer Leonard in public. If he was captured by the Japanese, he would be no better off than Leonard. He paddled hard and nervously. He didn't know if he'd make it out, but luckily for him, Bush's comrade Charlie Banner realized his predicament and came to Bush's side in time to reinforce him and drove away the Japanese boats near him. At the same time, Charlie reported Bush's current position to the U.S. Army. Finally, after more than 3 hours, the old man was rescued by the submarine Chisokyo. As the captain was a photographer, this historic scene was recorded by the camera. Afterwards, he realized that 14 of his comrades on the mission, 5 of them died on the spot. The remaining 8 were made into a human meal by the Japanese. If he hadn't survived that day, I'm afraid I would have been a dish on the Japanese dinner table. It so happened that 18 years later, when I returned to Japan, the sight of sashimi caused an overreaction. The crowd was in a state of shock and panic. Little did we know that this was the cause of the old Bush's psychological shadow.
Anybody know who Willie Lynch was? Anybody? Raise your hand. He was a vicious slave owner in the West Indies. The slave masters in the colony of Virginia were having trouble controlling their slaves, so they sent for Mr. Lynch to teach them his methods. Keep the slave physically strong, but psychologically weak and dependent on the slave master. Keep the body, take the mind. I and every other professor on this campus are here to help you to find, take back, and keep your righteous mind.
Chaos magic. Chaos magic is a modern form of occult practice that emerged in the late 20th century. Rooted in the principles of individualism and pragmatism, it diverges from traditional magical systems that often require strict adherence to established rituals and belief structures. Instead, chaos magic encourages practitioners to create their own methods and symbols, drawing from a wide range of influences to achieve their desired outcomes. The origins of chaos magic can be traced back to the 1970s in the United Kingdom. At its core, chaos magic is based on the concept that belief itself is a tool that can be manipulated to achieve magical results. Practitioners, often called chaos magicians or chaotes, believe that by altering their beliefs and using them temporarily, they can tap into the underlying chaos of the universe to manifest changes in reality. This approach allows for a high degree of experimentation and personalization, as there is no fixed dogma or pantheon to adhere to. Some common techniques include sigilization, where a practitioner creates a symbol representing their desire and then charges it with energy through meditation or ritual. Another method involves the use of altered states of consciousness, such as those induced by meditation, drugs, or intense physical activity, to facilitate magical work. Chaos magicians might also adopt and discard various belief systems as needed, seeing them as interchangeable tools rather than fixed truths.
An incredible find in Fairfax County. Nearly a dozen grave sites believed to belong to enslaved African Americans have just been discovered. They're in Bull Run Regional Park next to the Atlantis Water Park that's in Centerville. And as 7 News' Nick Minock explains, this brings the total number of graves found in this area to over 100.
Wow, it's our family cemetery.
A cemetery that was recently discovered in Bull Run Regional Park in Fairfax County, next to a water park.
This is small enough to be a child's grave.
In 2022, researchers used ground-penetrating radar and found 91 graves belonging to enslaved African Americans. This week, researchers found 11 more graves.
When I found out, I got it in a text. But I was in the chair jumping up and down. I was so happy.
Crystal Gaskins and Doretha Spriggs.
Look at the indent right here.
Are descendants of families who used to live here. This used to be a plantation owned by Robert Carter III. Carter owned hundreds of slaves.
And he certainly knew George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all the other founders. He was a contemporary of them. But he actually believed when people said all people were created equal, that they were.
Paul Gilbert says that's because Carter eventually had a religious awakening and adopted the Baptist faith. He says Carter's newfound faith seemed to change his views of slavery. On January 1st, 1791, 70 years before the Civil War, Carter signed a deed of gift, which gradually freed his 500 enslaved individuals, beginning with the oldest. Crystal's family was among those freed by Carter.
When they were freed, they were given options to rent, later to purchase property. Our families had homes, they had farms, they ran businesses, they opened about 18 churches in Fairfax County, family cemeteries. So here is home. My emotions coming through here are very spiritual, they're very deep. There's a lot of emotion. The saddening part is that they're here and we really don't know who they are right now. That's the sad part, but I won't give up in my lifetime. Continue to try to research to find somebody here that we know.
In Centerville, Nick Minogue, 7 News.
Heart, Lily. Ow! Somebody shot my ear! Somebody shot my ear!
Who the hell is using live ammunition?
This ass up here!
Worst pre-enactment ever. I'm distancing myself from this mess.
I knew he'd try something stupid. Be brave, be brave. Ooh, I'm never pooping again.
Why would you bring a real gun to the pre-enactment? Everyone else was using marshmallow bullets.
I don't see how a person is supposed to know something like that, but it's all in the script. If you bothered showing up for the table read, maybe you'd know.
Hey, you want to see something? Charlie gave this to me. It's a map of the Holy Land drawn in 1709. He got it at a flea market. It's hand-colored, copper engraved. He's going to put it in the outer office.
This outer office?
Yeah, no. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because some people are going to find it offensive.
Why?
Doesn't recognize Israel.
It was drawn in 1709.
Yeah.
There was no Israel.
Right.
Israel wouldn't happen for another 250 years.
Yeah.
So what's the problem with the map?
Some people are going to find it offensive.
Why?
It doesn't recognize Israel.
Take lunch, would you? Wait. I want to show you this great map Charlie found.
Sir, I know that you can't put it up in the West Wing.
CJ.
It doesn't recognize Israel.
There was no Israel in 1709.
That's right.
So it's not on the map.
Which is what some people are going to find offensive.
That's ridiculous.
You know what would be great?
If I put it someplace else?
Yes.
Was one of the most colorful characters in American history. It is said that he was born on December 29th, 1809 in Boston, was the eldest son of 6 children born to Benjamin and Sarah Andrew Pike. He studied at Harvard and later served as Brigadier General of the Confederate Army. After the Civil War, Pike was found guilty of treason and jailed, only to be pardoned by President Andrew Jackson on April 2nd, 1866, who met with him the next day at the White House. On June 20th, 1867, Scottish Rite officials conferred upon Johnson 32nd degree Freemasonry degrees. Pike was said to be a genius, able to read and write 16 languages. He was one of the founding fathers of the head of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, being the Grand Commander of North America Freemasonry from 1859, and retained that position until his death in 1891. In 1869, he was the top leader of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Pike was said to be a Satanist who indulged in the occult, and he apparently possessed a bracelet which he used to summon Lucifer, with whom he had constant communication. He was the Grand Master of a Luciferian group known as the Order of the Palladium, or of Sovereign Council of Wisdom, it's also been called, which had been founded in Paris in 1737. Now, General Albert Pike was the only Confederate general with a statue on federal property in Washington, D.C. He was honored not as a commander or even as a lawyer, but as Southern Regional Leader of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The statue stands on a pedestal near the foot of Capitol Hill between the Department of Labor building and the Municipal building between 3rd and 4th Streets on D Street Northwest. Now, I tell you all of this because it is said that he received a vision from his mentor, Mr. Lucifer, I guess, on August 15th, 1871. And William Guy Carr, former intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy, wrote a book called Satan, Prince of this World, in which he gives this information. He said that he received this information from a book written by Cardinal Caro Rodriguez in Santiago, Chile, who wrote in 1925 a book called The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled. And in this book, in 1925, it is said that he wrote a letter to a man named Mazzini in which he described this dream. And in the dream, he predicted 3 world wars. The First World War, he said, must be brought about, and I'm quoting from Albert Pike. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Now, students of history will know that Otto von Bismarck forged certain alliances between 1871 and 1898, which brought about this war, this World War I. And Otto von Bismarck here says that he was a co-conspirator with Albert Pike, and he was the one instrumental in bringing about the First World War. Well, that's the First World War. Then he dreams that there must be, he is given in this visionary dream, a Second World War. Now remember, this was in 1925 that it became public in this book written by a cardinal from Santiago, Chile, Rodriguez. He says, quote, "The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism will be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm." Well, there are some who may argue that the terms Nazism and Zionism were not known in 1871. You should remember, however, that the Illuminati invented both of these movements. In addition, communism as an ideology and as a coined phrase originates in France during the Revolution. In 1785, Restif coined the phrase 4 years before the Revolution broke out. Restif and Babeuf, in turn, were influenced by Rosé, as was the most famous conspirator of them all, Adam Weishaupt. Then he has this vision, in this vision, not only one world war and 2 world wars, but here comes the Third World War. He says, and I quote, "The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world." Yeah, that's what he says. The war, this was 1925. Please understand that. At least 1925. May go all the way back to 1871, as is purported to do, but at least it was written in a book and published in 1925. So he says, after World War I was just over a few years, and before World War II even started, he's now thinking about this Third World War, and it says that it will be caused by the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. That's what it says. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm in which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin and savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. So he's against Christianity and he's against atheism. They're supposed to fight each other to the death, you see. Then, he says, everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowledge where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. That's what he says. Brought finally out in the public view. So he's saying that Lucifer will finally make himself, the good guy. He's going to save the world from these atheists who don't believe in deity and from these Christians who believe in the good God. Well, so it says, this manifestation will result in the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Well, I don't know if it's true, but I can tell you that it sure has played into what is being carried on in the Middle East today. And it looks like everything from World War I and World War II, with the development of the State of Israel, and with the Zionist movement and the communist movement and the atheist movement and the peppering down of persecution on the Christians of this world, it looks like that may be Lucifer's attempt at annihilation of us all, so that Lucifer will appear in the form, of course, of what the Bible calls the Antichrist, and establish peace on earth for mankind. I got news for all those Illuminatists. Their little plan will only last for 3.5 years and will be destroyed by the second coming of Jesus Christ himself, who, by the way, is going to take all of us Christians out of this world before the 7 years sets in, before this Luciferian ideal can capture the imaginations of people on planet Earth. There won't be a fight between Christianity and atheism, because we will be gone. But the atheists, they might meet their demise at the hands of the Antichrist when he introduces Lucifer, his old pal. I can tell you this, they're all going to be thrown into the lake of fire. So says the Word of God, and I believe it from cover to cover. I'm J.R. Church. We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.
You know what your problem is? You're smart. Too smart. You overthink because your mind moves at 1,000,000 miles a minute. You're sad because you're not fooled by the world like everyone else. You don't get along with most people because they just don't look at things the way you do. You think you're dumb because you're smart enough to know you don't know everything. Your problem is you're too smart. And happiness in intelligent people is one of the rarest things I know.
Some of you bring politics into the church. You think that politics is spiritual stuff. Politics is of this world. You think it's your duty to be political about this, that, and the other. No, your duty is to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, body, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Don't be talking to me about my spiritual responsibility to vote. I don't have a spiritual responsibility to vote. I have a civic privilege. Don't be telling me that voting is spiritual. See, that's what happens when you don't read and pray. When you don't read and pray, you say, wow, there's a Bible out now that includes the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Isn't that wonderful? No. No, it's disgusting. It's blasphemous. It's a ploy. Are you kidding me? Some of you are so encouraged by that. Let me tell you something. The gospel is not an American gospel. It is the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. But Pastor, I bought the Bible. Really? You're telling me that you're encouraged because someone took a government, U.S. Constitution, a document that says we are of the people, by the people, and for the people, the people, the people, the people. And you have put it right beside the Word of God, which is eternal, unchanging, which says, of Him, by Him, through Him, to Him, from Him are all things, and you're going to put those together and be happy about it? God forbid. Now, you can get mad if you want to, but I'm going to tell you something. If you glory in that kind of thing, you don't have a prayer life. If you glory in that kind of mess, political mess, you do not know what the Word of God says. I'm going to rear back and tell you something. This is not my home. This world is not my home. I've been sent out just like the 70 were sent out. You've been put here and sent out just like the 70 were sent out. We've been put here as strangers and pilgrims, and we are passing through. I am just walking through. I'm just renting an apartment for a little while in this strange and foreign land. No, sir. My real citizenship is in heaven, from which we look for the Lord Jesus Christ.
You need to look at the Vatican. Once you begin to look at the Vatican, now it's going to get serious. Because you need to remember that the Pope has dominated Europe for some 1,600 years. And Europe has dominated the world for 1,600 years. And our American system is a Vatican system. We live under the Vatican in this country. The Vatican system, of course, is based on the ancient Roman system. And in Rome, the seat of power for Caesar was called Capitol Hill. And so every morning, Caesar would go up on the hill, Capitol Hill. Capitol is a Latin word for money. You either have the capital or you don't. And consequently, in the Capitol Hill, Caesar would meet with the Senate. That's what we have, the Senate. The symbols of the ancient Roman Senate were two fasces, the crossing of the fasces. That's the symbol of the United States Senate, crossing of the fasces. When you see the President of the United States standing and speaking to an audience in the room where the podium and then the Speaker of the House and the Vice President sit behind him, when you see someone making a speech in that room, look on both sides of the podium. Don't look at the person talking. Look at the symbols. For many will look with their eyes but not see, and will listen with their ears but not hear, and with the heart not get the sense of it. You need to open your eyes and look at the symbols on both sides of the podium, which is about an 8 or 9 foot high fascia, called a fascia, a bundle of sticks with a hatchet head, the symbol of royal power in Rome. Our system is under Rome. Doesn't matter what you think of the Roman Catholic Church. It doesn't matter what you think of the religion of the Roman Catholic Church. All you need to know is your country is dominated by the Pope. Period.
Look at that. On a cross. Look at the type of blasphemy. Look at that. They put an idol, a demon on a cross. Straight blasphemy of the Lord Jesus. Highway 61, look at this. This is a woman leaving a man, packing her bags, leaving her husband. Look at the short dress. Look at the red bottoms. Sexual perversion, immorality. Look at the dog. It's a demon. She's following the dog, leaving her husband. Adultery. Look, on a crossroads. Look, they even put a red cross. Look at this. And look where it goes up to. Satan with a guitar in his hand. And look at that. Look what it says right there. Lucifer Express 666. You see, look. I can't make this up, bro. This is in Disney Springs where little kids walk in. This is the first thing you see. Look at the art, bro. I'm telling you, man, the devil's a liar. This is the first spot. Look at this. Look at this, bro. Are you kidding me? We didn't even go 100 feet. Look at that. That's another demon holding a child. That's a demon holding a child. A man in a coffin. Witchcraft. And like I said earlier, look at that. Look at the blasphemy. Straight blasphemy, bro. And these are all totem poles. They used to use totem poles in the Old Testament. The pagans would use totem poles for idol worship. Look at this. Look at this angel of light. A fallen angel. But as you guys can see, the totem poles. When people say, you know, you shouldn't have a Christmas tree, when they're in the book of Jeremiah, I believe, when it talks about ornaments on the tree, it was actually talking about a totem pole. This, literally. When the Lord says, do not put any ornaments, you see what I'm saying? Ornaments on a pole. They would actually put ornaments on a pole and worship it. It was witchcraft.
This is how the world will be deceived to accept the mark of the beast. Watch this video to avoid the trap of the Antichrist. For thousands of years, we have been forewarned about the coming of the Antichrist. We have had ample time to prepare for the tragedy that will follow the arrival of the Antichrist. We know of the dangers, we know of the promise, and we know of the retribution. So we cannot be deceived, right? Wrong. In spite of the Bible's admonition of the coming son of perdition, many will fall to his antics. Many will take the mark of the beast. Why? That is what this episode is about. In this episode, we will look at why billions of people will take the number 666, in spite of knowing the danger. It won't just be non-believers. People of faith will be tempted and stumble. They will stumble because they disregard the signs of the times. They will stumble because they will lean on their own strength to withstand the 1,000-year plan of Satan. The reason why many people will take the mark of the beast is discussed in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 17. According to the Bible, no one will be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. When we read the book of Revelation, we often think that these events will happen suddenly. However, the truth is that the spirit of the Antichrist is already at work in the world. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, it is mentioned that the God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel. This shows that the devil is already actively deceiving people. If we ask people today whether they would receive the mark of the beast, most would say no because they understand its significance and origin. But how will the Antichrist, the devil, recruit people to accept the mark? There are two major ways: deception and idolatry. Deception is the first approach the devil uses. He is known as the father of lies, and he will come as a man of peace, deceiving the world into believing that he is the solution to all problems. He won't reveal his true intentions initially, but the world will trust and worship him. The Antichrist will speak evil against God, blaspheme his name, and shift people's focus from God to himself. His deceptive strategy will make millions worship him. Some will say, "Is it not just a mark? What harm can it do to me?" Others will rationalize. They will say, "If God does not want me to take the mark, he would not have allowed this to happen." But God is not the source of evil. Evil happens because we exercise our free will to disobey God. Evil happens because we rely on our own judgment instead of adhering to the warnings and promises contained in the Bible. In Psalm chapter 121, verses 7 to 8, God was emphatic in his promise. It says, "The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore." But as it is written in Deuteronomy chapter 28, the condition for this promise is obedience. And if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. Many people, even those who were once faithful, will miss the promise because they will be overtaken by the spirit of disobedience. They will accept the damnation of the mark of the beast because they could not trust and obey God. The Antichrist's second approach to get people to accept the mark of the beast is through the offer of material things. People desire a good life and wealth, and the devil will use temporary material possessions to deceive them. Without the mark, people will not be able to buy or sell, creating a strong motivation for many to take the mark. This leads to the second method, idolatry. After many have been deceived, they will worship the Antichrist as an idol, adoring him as a celebrity. The world is already inclined to idolize and worship athletes, musicians, and other figures. Concerts and events demonstrate this worshiping behavior with thousands of people exalting and uplifting a person's name. People have become accustomed to worshiping human beings, and the Antichrist will exploit this tendency. The book of 2 Timothy chapter 3 is as revealing as it gets. It says, "In the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power." Does any of these sound familiar? The devil's plan to make people accept the mark of the beast involves coercion, deception, and idolatry. He will deceive the world with false promises, portraying himself as a solution to global issues. He will also offer material possessions and exploit people's desire for a good life. Once deceived, people will worship the Antichrist as an idol. The devil's power should not be underestimated, but it is important to remember that his power is nothing compared to God's. It is important for Christians not to be complacent and assume that the rise of the Antichrist and the mark of the beast will only occur after the rapture or in the distant future. The book of Thessalonians makes it clear that the man of sin, also referred to as the son of perdition, will be active in the last days. I hope that you heed Paul's warning in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 2, and be reminded that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. Only those who watch and pray, that is, have the requisite physical and spiritual alertness, will withstand the deceptive and coercive power of Satan and avoid the mark of the beast. Thank you for watching. Help us share this message with your friends and loved ones. God bless you. Amen.
When you go to CERN, right outside the front door is this gigantic picture of this Indian god that is standing inside of a portal. It was a tour to let people come in and look around. And as one person was looking around, they saw these gigantic clear panels leaning up against the side of a part of the machine with these hieroglyphs on them. Nobody can decipher these hieroglyphs. Nobody knows what in the world these are, what they mean, where they came from, who wrote them, what writing, what ancient culture are they linked to. Nobody knows. CERN is the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. They send atoms in opposite directions and speed them up to a percentage of the speed of light and then let them collide. And then they analyze the collision. But something else they discover in the process is that they create microscopic black holes. I think, in my opinion, part of the work going on at CERN is to learn how to create stable wormholes. Einstein-Rosen bridge, I believe they're talking about the Stargate.
And when we start talking about the New World Order, we are not talking about these people at all. We're talking about these Khazar warriors that only pretended to embrace Judaism. And so today, we find that about 92% of the people who claim to be Jews really aren't. They don't have a drop of Semitic blood in their veins. They are Khazar warriors with a new bent on life and a goal to conquer, to rape, and to pillage. And that philosophy has come down over time, and we see how effectively they have implemented it throughout history. Now, when they pretended to embrace Judaism, they drew upon the real Jews for some education. And they used the Hebrew alphabet as phonics to codify their Khazar language. And so now we look at that language called Yiddish or Jiddish and find that it is not Hebrew. It only appears to be. Now these people have run into some trouble over time. In 965 AD, they were overrun by the Varganians, which was Swedish-ruled Slavic people. Varganian is the Russian word for Vikings. And they were militarily defeated, which curbed their expansionist philosophy for some time. And then in 1140, they were literally overrun by the Mongols for Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan. And they were driven down into Eastern Europe. Their monarch, the king, or Chagan as he was called, fled to Spain and Portugal. Now, because these folks were a darker skinned people with black hair and brown eyes, it was easier for them to fit in with the folks of Spain and Portugal and Italy and Sicily than they could other places where they stood out and looked markedly different. And they took a great deal of control, especially in Spain and Portugal, so much so that they were discovered in conspiracy because they worked together to get themselves, one of them, into a position of authority where that person can work in tandem with others to get more of their people in authority and positions of power, and working it up to where they're running the show and milking everybody else. After they fled down into Europe, there was one of them, a guy by the name of Meyer Amschel Bauerberg, who decided to enter into clandestine world government. Meyer Amschel Bauerberg used the symbol outside of his father's silversmith shop, a large red shield, as inspiration for an alias. And he went by the name of Rothschild. That's German language for red shield. Now, Rothschild was born in 1743, and when he was in his late 20s, he formulated a financial enterprise with 12 other entrepreneurs with the dedication, with the interest and the intent of conquering everybody and everything. They were going to do it with fractional reserve banking, and that turned out to be a very successful tool. We found out about fractional reserve banking at the Bank of Amsterdam in 1610 when, like all fiat money inflations, it came to a roaring bust. And they learned from that and wanted to implement it wherever they could so that they could be the ones that profited from, benefited from that enterprise. Now, Meyer Amschel Bauerberg had 5 sons, and he took these 5 sons, and as they became of age, he sent them to foreign countries to operate not an independent banking system, but one in conjunction with the rest of their people. A system whereby Nathan, who went to London and soon proved himself to be shrewd. There was one named Kalman who passed himself off as Carl, and I think he went to Amsterdam. Jacob called himself James in Paris. And we find that throughout the world, in 5 big locations, they had banking institutions that had a very clever idea. And if these people weren't so evil, it would have been easier to admire what they did. But
Every single president in U.S. history is related to one king.
What?
This is where it gets crazy. This man, his name is Harold Brooks Baker. He did all this, this study on U.S. presidents and royal lineage. He had this theory. The presidents weren't voted in by the people, but they were actually selected. They're selected based on royal bloodline.
Oh, no.
And it was called the most royal candidate theory. 13 or so years ago, this 12-year-old girl, with the help of her grandparents, went down the lineage of each president, and they all connected to one man.
Weird.
Martin Van Buren. But they connected to one man. All their lineage traced back to King John, and he was of the House of Plantagenet. And there's a folklore around the House of Plantagenet that they were actually descendants from a demon.
Oh, what? That's horrible.
Yeah, it was old folklore, and King John is actually the villain king in Robin Hood, and he was just a terrible king. So you can trace every single president back to him, and then they recently discovered with Martin Van Buren, you can trace his lineage back to King John's mother.
So, bring your face. Let's look at this. And by the way, this is for entertainment purposes only. A Rough Guide to Hell. Yeah, this was a cover artwork that was issued in 2012. Let's look right here. It says Hamas right there in Israel on paragliders. And then you see here it says Wrath. But this artwork also entails some things that I find interesting too. If we see right here, it says oil and gluttony. I wonder what that can mean. Then we got sloth right here. You know, somebody's not doing shit. We got little Kim right there playing with the missiles. That's Putin. Top corner we got lust. They chased some booty right into a pit. We got climate change, India and China. We already know what that means. Then if we look right here, we got pride. And over here, we have envy. Is 1 + 1 equaling to 2? That's all that I'm saying. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this interesting, very intriguing artwork from 2012 in the comments. Like or follow for more wisdom and stay tuned. By the way, TikTok, this is only for entertainment purposes only. Follow me on YouTube if y'all want more exclusive content.
Videos the government doesn't want you to see. A giant-sized figure is recorded on a hilltop doing push-ups.
Nih teman-teman, ayo join sama kita. Terus sampai belakang sana. Ini juga jualan. Yang lagi jualan. Ini ada yang jualan PlayStation ini. Ini ada yang lagi ngedance. Ini juga.
Langsung di check out, langsung di payment aja ya katanya. Khusus earning aku langsung ada di sana.
Wait, jangan sedih, masih ada. Nih.
Well, doesn't look like anybody's home, and that's because this building is fake.
There have been stories that it's a secret passageway down to the depths of New York.
Sometimes when you walk by at night, there's like a glow, it's like an orange glow.
Many are calling this skyscraper the most terrifying building in the world.
I've definitely heard that there's maybe some secret government stuff in there.
False facades like this one hiding government facilities are hardly unique throughout the country.
Not everyone knows it's a fake building.
I thought it was just a regular building. I mean, I come up the street all the time.
That's crazy. You're probably not the only person.
No.
So this is our first fake building, 58 Joralemon Street. We've got a whole bunch of fake buildings to look at today, a creepy tower with no windows, a former biolab, and they're all here in New York.
Others who live in the neighborhood say once they notice the building, they notice some strange sights and sounds.
It's like something out of Ghostbusters.
Look, it's so famous, It has its own Wikipedia article about how it's fake, and that's how you know it's the real deal. Now, from the outside, it looks like your typical townhouse. You got your townhouse windows, your little townhouse fence, your creepy looking staircase. But all of this metal here, this should give it away that there's something going on. And the windows are fully blacked out. If you had this tint on your car, the cops would probably arrest you. And look at the door. This thing is not designed to be opened by mere mortals. And honestly, it doesn't really stand out at all. It looks completely normal.
There have been stories that it's a secret passageway, that it's an escape route, that it's haunted.
Now, the building was originally constructed in 1847 as a private residence. For about 60 years, people lived here, but that all changed in 1907 when it was purchased by the Interborough Rapid Transit Company. They were the original New York City underground subway that was started in 1904, and the reason that they bought this particular building is because their subway runs directly underneath it. And since the subway consists of long tunnels with air moving through it, you've got to vent the air out somehow. Now, the building and all the buildings on the street predate the subway underneath the street, so that's why you can't just put a vent here. There's already something here. So the people building the subway bought the building and completely hollowed out the interior, and that makes it the worst.
Believe in something called karmic retribution, which means as long as they tell you what they're about to do, it's okay for them to do it.
Its reign of terror.
Gangway!
Love to see New York. We could all go with the bus company's special Super Sitter fare.
$9? This one's on me.
Let's hope Osama bin Laden doesn't know show tunes. God, I hope I get it. I hope I get it.
Wait and see!
Oh, you're stupid.
Well, you're stupider.
No, you're...
And I'm out of here.
The elites of this world believe in something called karmic retribution, which means as long as they tell you what they're about to do, it's okay for them to do it.
Oreos, bro, are satanic. There was this person, and they study symbols. If you think about it, on an Oreo, you know how that pattern's on the front? It's like, I don't know, it catches your eye. So the cross on the Oreo, yeah, is a satanic cross. You know the Freemason compass? Yeah. It's also this part of the Oreo, like the triangle. Oh, this is where it gets even crazier. The word Oreo originates from an ancient Greek and Egyptian term, Orias, and that is an Egyptian serpent that people used to worship.
They knocked those down?
The Wild West and all that shit was rewritten history. Like, we had to start over with the horse and buggy. They figured it all out, destroyed it.
Well, there's a lot of theories about civilization being reset. You don't think so? Like, after a fire, you think that they would have decided to preserve it? What if preserving it would cost a shitload of money?
These are two separate events.
Two separate events.
Fires were in Chicago at it was pre-1900.
Oh, what is that?
This was 20 years later at the San Francisco World Fair.
That was what you were showing me right there? Oh, I thought it was the same World Fair.
Nope.
So there's two World Fairs that caught fire.
No.
One of them they just destroyed.
This one says they destroyed it.
For no reason.
That's where I don't really get there yet.
So you think they did it because they want to hide history?
Yeah.
You didn't even hide.
125,000 acres of nothing.
They even had to move 5 cemeteries, because the noise they were planning on making would wake the dead. Don't worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And, as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. Oh. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles. Those candidates are phonies. You heard me. They're alien replicants from beyond the moon.
These latest images are shot with a heat-detecting camera. Hillary is blue, cold, metal.
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles. Why won't anyone believe my crazy story?
Are the aliens? Maybe they're among us, I don't know.
America!
The Strange Truth That You Have Never Known Part 7. Humans have never known the true appearance of dinosaurs. First, look at the picture below. The first picture is the skeleton of hippo, and the second picture is how it is reconstructed if what humans know about them is only fossilized skeletons. However, the reality of their appearance is not as scary as that. Similarly, with the bones of current animal species, if only based on bones to recreate, they will definitely be more frightening than the reality of them. Back to the dinosaur species, what humans know about them is only remaining fossils, and the appearance is no different from a monster with a rough and jagged skin. All of these are imagined by humans. However, the appearance of them may be scary like this. Or there may be a layer of white hair like a polar bear or a layer of feathers like a bird, and humans will never know exactly what their true appearance looks like.
What would the world look like if schools taught real skills, like how to draw a 2-scale map of your property, how to track the sun's location in the sky? Your kids could plant seeds in an indoor greenhouse, study how a greenhouse works, and in the fall we have them build a cheap outdoor greenhouse. Use their map to choose the best garden location and start an outdoor garden. They could learn to identify nutrient deficiency in plants and treat those deficiencies with at-home fertilizer. At the end of the summer, they could harvest their crops and then practice food preservation by canning, preserving meat, and my favorite, pickling red onions. I spent the last year building out this nature unit study. Check out my private homeschool community and Cubs to Bears books.
Okay, time for this biz. Let's go. And on 9/11, they just did it. So, Bell, Eve, me, when I say that they put the 9 and the 11 next to each other on purpose, because September is the harvest month of the Slayer. So, of course, Nike, the Bull Slayer, is in business with the Bulls, Michael Jordan. Many people couldn't accept the truth that Michael Jordan was part of the Illuminati. The Red Bull of Baal-El, the ancient bull god of sacrifice from the Canaanites and the Phoenicians. Baal, the same demonic god that King Solomon worshipped. The bull god El and his son Baal were the gods of the Canaanites and the Phoenicians. He is the god Saturn El, or Satan, or Santa. So now you know why Santa rings the golden bell. And Baal is the bull god that the Canaanites used to sacrifice their children to. And that's why Christmas involves children, because Saturn El is the child slayer who eats children, and that's why Santa's belly is big and full. And that's why Santa rides the sleigh, because Saturn El is the slayer god. The god slayer of time, Father Time. El is the ruler of the 12 houses of the zodiac, and that's why the letter L is the number 12, the evil of the devil who fell to hell. So now you know why Michael Jordan is standing with L. And that's why they want to crown Michael as the king. And the word crown comes from the golden harvest god Cronus, which is known as a title. And it comes from the Titans. So now you know why Michael has the 6 golden rings. Because Saturn is the 6th planet, and it's the 6th day of the week, and that's why Saturday is named after the god Saturn, the day of chaos. And that's why the ring of King Solomon, or the King of the Sun, is the Star of David, or the Star of Divide, because the star is divided from the sexual union. And that's why the hexagram or the sexagram is the symbol for both Saturn and the Sun.
The English language marks the end of days. In the end of days, it is said that there will be one unified language, but we don't know what it is. Now, we all speak the English language. However, not many of us know that it's actually a Germanically derived occult-influenced language from the Spear Shakers cult, led by Sir Francis Bacon, whose agenda was to normalize witchcraft into our daily lives. This cult was actually behind the writings of the great William Shakespeare, explaining why the writing styles in all his stories were vastly different. And through the stories, they managed to introduce 1,700 new words into our daily language to trap us. Just think about how we are spelling every day, or the fact that we idolize Hollywood, which is the wood used by witches and wizards to craft their wands and staff. That continues to influence our daily lives and the words we say. The Bible says that blessings and cursings out of the same mouth, this is my brethren, ought not be. So, you might want to be careful of what you say, because
a number of things that I've heard from people in the Pentagon, that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area that Peter's.
Wow! Can you repeat that again, just in case anybody missed it? The buzzword
in the Pentagon, in the military circles that are in the know about the cover-up here, they kind of in whispered tones talk about the return of the Sumerian gods. And they're talking about the what we would call aliens or fallen angels returning into the Middle East, into Old Sumer area.
the Anunnaki.
Aesthetic, if you want it, you get it, yeah, I love how you move it, yeah, hey, yeah, I get it,
East Iraq. During advanced excavations at the ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur, British archaeologist Leonard Woolley discovers the remains of Queen Puabi. According to reports, the queen is found with an unusually large skull, similar to that possessed by some Egyptian pharaohs and mummies in Peru. For many ancient astronaut theorists, the queen's skull provides further evidence of mankind's extraterrestrial origins.
The description of the queen was highly unusual. A head that was huge. She was not a normal human. She may not have been full Anunnaki. She could have been a hybrid.
There is an effort underway to try to get genetic analysis of the bones. There are characteristics that allude to Anunnaki genes.
This is what the Anunnaki supposedly look like, with these cone head type skulls. So we would naturally think that she is one of the original Anunnaki, or certainly extraterrestrial human hybrid.
What's of interest of Queen Puabi is that she's a first dynasty queen and or priestess. So the fact that she's first dynasty means that she's very close to the reign of the Anunnaki. This puts her in a very unique position because she really holds the key. She might be the evidence to suggest whether or not the ancient Anunnaki were physically real, and that specifically the Anunnaki interbred.
But if the unusual skulls found in Mesopotamia and elsewhere are really evidence of the Anunnaki's reign on Earth, might the legends about them descending from the sky also be true? And if so, might the same be said for other legends that describe similar beings found in ancient texts all over the world? Angels. The flying serpents of Central America. The star people of the Anasazi. The notion that otherworldly beings came to Earth from the heavens is one of the most common themes in ancient mythology and religion. Could the stories really have a basis in truth?
If we go back and look into ancient history, we find stories that sound very, very similar. They're sort of all-powerful, magical, superior entities, and they come from above.
When you go into mythology, when you go into the Star People tales, when you go into the Anunnaki, it is the sameness, the similarity around the planet that makes you say something has to be responsible for the same dreams, the same mythology, the same idea that life came from the stars.
That is true of spinning objects in space. So a deck of cards makes some very interesting games and demonstrations that you can do in space. Some of you may be familiar with the old experiment about the hammer and the feather. Well, in this case, our feather will be played here by this four of spades. And you may expect everything up here in microgravity to float, because most everything does float.
No, 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 no.
We need to stop being mad at the person. It's not the flesh, it's the spirit. We need discernment. It's scary to have it all figured out and you still don't know what's coming. If I say Jesus is coming, then people think it's funny. But all these kids believe in tooth fairies and mummies. I thought Easter was about Jesus. They replaced him with a bunny. Distractions give us more faith in Santa Claus than our Savior. How come the letters in Santa also spell Satan? If scary movies are good, then why do we fear it? Why do these stores like to call alcohol spirits? Help me understand it. The world been looking shady, I just need some answers. I'm seeing men turn into ladies, everything is backwards. The world has been deceiving us with these distractions. How did this happen? We need to stop being mad at
the $5 bill shows the Twin Towers, the $10 bill shows after the planes collided, the $20 bill shows the building collapsing, the $50 bill shows the dust and the smoke, the $100 bill shows a new beginning. This all happens when you fold the notes into a paper airplane. What a coincidence, huh? It's all subliminal.
The NAACP is a white organization. It's not a Negro organization. Never had been a Negro organization.
What do you think of the NAACP?
I think the NAACP was formed as a communist front. In fact, I know it was. The NAACP was formed after the communists and their allies crushed Booker T. Washington down here in the South.
Well, you don't think Dr. Martin Luther King was part of a communist conspiracy?
The NAACP was formed in 1904, before King was ever born.
But he was certainly a big leader with the NAACP, was he?
Oh, yeah, King was leading a lot of things. I think Martin Luther King, if you study his activities, had one solution for every problem. Another government program, another federal agency. That's just more government and higher taxes. You look up today, and everywhere you look, you got some federal bureaucrat running around shouting, Negroes being picked on here, women over here, and this sort of business. Well, I, for one, am getting sick of that nonsense. Martin Luther King wasn't the least bit interested in the Negro people. What he was doing was using our grievances, legitimate grievances, to promote government programs.
Did you know that George Washington laid the cornerstone for the White House? He actually designed the entire layout of Washington, D.C. And this 33rd degree Mason left some clues in his work. First off, 13 blocks or 6,666 inches away from the White House is the House of the Temple, a Scottish Rite Freemasonry temple with what the Sphinx really used to look like, sitting right outside. And the White House sits at the apex of the inverted pentagram, where a regular pentagram could represent the 5 wounds of Jesus Christ, the human body, or the 5 elements. The inverted represents Satan. The White House is also found at the apex of a hexagram, otherwise known as above, so below, the Seal of Solomon, or the Star of David, which is used for protection or binding. Here's the 2 symbols together again, and that's the same image they used to model George Washington and Zeus. What do you think?
Who cares if the earth is flat? Who cares if it's round? Doesn't matter. We just gonna live and die. Anyway, we all gonna die. Don't none of this shit matter anyway. I tell you why it matters. Everything that you've been programmed to believe about reality and the way this universe works is purposely designed to hide you from who you really are. It's purposely designed to hide the true children of Israel. It's purposely designed to hide you from the true divine Father of creation. It's purposely designed to hide you from your roots. It's meant to hide the tree of life and the true nature of the universe and how everything is created and the true power that we have. It's designed to keep you out of balance with the yin and the yang, even down to the sexual nature and the sexual energy that everybody carries, which is the most powerful energy in creation. It's so powerful, in fact, it can bring a whole body and a whole soul into this world. All we know how to do is bust a nut. We don't even know the real power of what we're playing with. So that's why it matters. It does matter. We didn't just happen by accident.
The more you study history, the less you will trust government. Everybody knows the common assumption that it was hunters and settlers from Europe who wiped out the bison population in America, right? Wrong. It was actually the United States government who went in and slaughtered 50 million bison. Why? In order to drive the Native Americans off their land, push them onto reservations, and take the land by force. Control the food, control the people. Now ask yourself, what is going on with the food today, and does somebody have an incentive to control the food today?
I came across the halls of Amenti when I went to Egypt. Discovered a few years ago underneath the Great Pyramid at Giza, rejuvenation chambers, Oath would climb inside and he would transfer his consciousness into different avatar bodies, leaving the other body he just left rejuvenating down there for about 100 years. They had many bodies waiting for them to be able to just come and take a new sleeve whenever they needed one. They fashioned these bodies themselves, and then they would inhabit them and walk amongst men, but unlike a man.
Did you know that the first secret society ever was called the Brotherhood of the Snake? It all starts in ancient Mesopotamia, about 6,000 or so years ago, where it said that gods came to Earth for Earth's resources, but created humans to do the hard work so they didn't have to. But Anu didn't think that was right to keep that knowledge from us. And along with Enki, and they spread that knowledge, then got cast out of heaven to Earth, where they started the world's first secret society, the Brotherhood of the Snake. Secret society was all about the truths of the universe and of the heavens and your place in it. Their cult logo bore the Eye of Horus. It's also referred to the pineal gland for knowledge. Another symbol they used was the Staff of Hermes, which used the snakes to refer to the secret society. And on top of them being punished by being cast to Earth for eternity, it said they're doomed to reincarnate here forever. They're not eternal. Could they still be running secret societies today? You let me know.
World history is fake.
Well, in 1901, the Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundation established the public education system in the United States, effectively taking a nation with a literacy rate of 93% on average and reducing it to about, at a best, 45%. Now, why would they do this? They do this because, as all would-be rulers would find, is that a nation of readers or a nation of literate people are harder to control. As George Carlin famously said, you don't want a nation of enlightened, well-thinking people sitting around the dinner table, figuring out how bad they've been fucked over by a system that threw them overboard 50, 60, 70 years ago now. I say all this so that we can segue into the Empire of Tartaria, a forgotten nation that was most likely a global, unified nation that was using free energy technology to distribute power throughout the globe. Based on what we can surmise is that these Gothic, Greco-Roman, different types of architecture that are strangely similar with pillars and different kinds of spires throughout the realm or globe show very distinctive and similar engineering characteristics. They were also very difficult to make.
Tell me something that you wish more people understood.
This is not America. This is Polynesia. Our country was stolen. That's one of your problems. You're ignorant, woefully ignorant. You think you are in America. You are not in America. You are in a colony that is in Polynesia that was forcibly taken, just as, I might add, all of Eastern Europe was forcibly taken by the Soviet Union, which Americans think is a very, very bad place. The bad, bad Soviet Union. Well, the bad, bad United States of America took Puerto Rico, it took Alaska, it stole Indian land, it took Hawaii, it took Guam, it took Micronesia, Palau, and you had better learn that history because you are the recipient of an imperialist tradition.
This is the most sinister game that never existed. It all starts in the 1980s in an arcade in Portland, Oregon. Polybius was alleged to be a vector graphics game in which the player has to shoot geometric shapes while noises and patterns flash on screen. The urban legend said that the game itself caused side effects ranging from headaches and migraines to seizures, and in some cases, even suicide. The myth then goes on to detail that mysterious men in black will come in frequently to inspect the Polybius machine before taking notes and leaving without saying a word. It was alleged after a few months, the machine was quietly removed from every arcade in Portland and was never heard from again. What is more interesting is that the company that was said to have created the game, Sinuslotion, translated to English, reads sensory deprivation. And all of these things were going on roughly at the same time as proven psychological government experiments. That is why many claim that.
He was cannibalized after they killed him. They ate him. During a lot of lynchings, they would cook and barbecue people, and they would actually eat the people that they would lynch. So this was something that was a part of the white supremacist culture, consuming us literally.
Because they know you are what you eat. So if a white man eats you or eat me, he believes that he becomes us. And I know it's strange because I conquered them, but I'm going to devour what I've conquered.
I mean, a lot of the mummies that was taken out of Africa was taken to Europe and sold, and they used it as medicine, and they used it as aphrodisiacs. They ate our dead people's bodies. And cannibalizing us is nothing new. That whole concept of cannibalism comes from Europe. You don't find any instance of cannibalism in Africa or Asia.
The culinary industry, eating children, has always been famous with them. That's why people eat eggs. Egg is the fetus of a chicken, unborn chicken. You eat it.
This is what a real calendar looks like, guys. So there are 13 moon cycles or months and 28 days on all turtle shells, and the indigenous people knew the wisdom of the turtle and kept this as their calendar. So this actually equals 364 days plus 1 day of rest. Interesting. So our ancestors have followed this calendar for a very long time. After all, there are 13 moon cycles and 27 to 29 days in each cycle per year. It's almost as if our predecessors have subtracted 1 month out of the year to sever the connection with man, the moon, the stars, and astrology in general, which, whether you're aware of it or not, is a giant clock. Ancient cultures and societies knew this wisdom and always used to look to the sun, the stars, the moon, and the heavens, and this is why they flourished. Peace and love.
This man's story deserves a movie. This is a picture of Henry Johnson. Henry was born in North Carolina in 1897. and as a teenager, he moved to New York City. In 1917, Henry enlisted into the Army to help fight in World War I, where he was assigned to an all-black National Guard infantry which became known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The group was deployed into France, where they found themselves on the front lines fighting German soldiers. While overseas, Henry found himself fighting back against a German assault. Henry was shot, stabbed, and hit with grenade shrapnel, which as a result gave him 21 serious injuries. But Henry didn't give up. Fighting for his life, Henry ended up killing or injuring 24 different German soldiers by himself. And he was also able to rescue a fellow soldier. Because of this, Henry was awarded France's highest medal for bravery. And in 2015, the White House recognized him with the Medal of Honor.
Now here's some more science history that you did not learn in school. Charles Babbage, the man that's responsible for giving the world the first automatic digital computer, the very same man who in the 1830s made plans for an analytical engine which he was never able to complete, but if he did, it would have actually contained all of the basic elements of our present-day modern computer, which is why the science world knows Charles Babbage as the father of the computer. And if you haven't guessed it as of yet, Charles Babbage was a creationist. I mean, this guy didn't just believe in God and the Bible, but before he became a mathematician and an inventor, he wanted to be a church minister. And Charles Babbage was firmly convicted that to study nature with scientific precision was necessary so that an individual could understand how nature testifies of the wisdom and the beauty of a divine author. Because Charles Babbage believed Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1, that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And whether you like it or not, the truth is the truth.